Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas, and good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter going into the nooks and crevices of whatever walls being broken, metaphorically, into those square, sometimes round boxes known as radios, aka Howard Reynolds boxes. Hey folks, guess what, man? We're gonna have a great show for you today. But before we get started, welcome to those around the world who listen to us through the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, but it's more than that. ARPANET, developed by we the people, not the billionaires who are currently monopolizing it and making a ton of money on it, as many of us just scrap and try to make it. But without further ado, let's get to the studio.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother.
You say the ARPANET, I say the awful net. Because when you got internet problems in your business, you got awful net.
Yeah, so is it still giving you problems, Howard? Do you
yes,
still have the?
Yes,
oh my God! Oh my God!
Mm-hmm. We're still my T-Mobile box is out at the transmitter, keeping the station on the air. And at my house, I don't have internet.
Well, you know what's so funny? You could be a great advertiser for T-Mobile, because that T-Mobile is keeping KPFT on air with its signaling. Hey, that's a hell of an advertising.
Well, it certainly is. We are switching over to T-Mobile, getting rid of AT&T because of their lousy customer service and lousy service. So we're getting rid of them and going with T-Mobile, but the T-Mobile box has to be configured for what we need it for. And that takes a couple of days on their part. So here we go again. And, you know, I just love radios. I do. I love the lit dial on them. I like to be able to turn them up and turn them down. You know, listening on the internet, that's one thing. That's okay. And that's how that's how a lot of people get us. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I still love radios. Radios are still cool.
Because they rock.
They do. And if you don't like what you're hearing, you can change the channel.
Well, you know what else is actually very, very good about radios? When you have hurricanes and all that sort of thing, what else can you do? You only have that option where, you know, radio is like a one-to-many, right? And while the internet is one-to-many as well, or can be many-to-many, it's discrete, and it's not as efficient as radio is, and it could never be efficient as radio, given the way it works. So I mean, believe it or not, you're absolutely right. Whenever things go wrong, where do we turn? To the radio.
Return to the radio. Return to the radio. Now, you know, I do have a little battery-powered TV set, but the problem is it eats up the battery really quickly. Yes. So radio will last for days on end with batteries.
Oh,
which my radios always have batteries in them because I like to carry them around. Radios are just cool.
Yeah. I remember the days that you had that little mini radio in your pocket or something like. I remember when pocket radios kind of was a thing.
Transistor radios.
Oh, yes.
The original.
I got so many of those taken away from me in school because I figured out if you put it in your pocket and you put a little hole in the back of the shirt pocket, you could stick the wire in, stick the plug in for your earpiece, and listen to it that way. And I got caught so many times with the radio. It's like, okay, give me that radio. Like, no, I don't want to. But, you know, like I said, I love radios and I love radio stations and I love radio people. It's just one of those things that's in my DNA.
Well, you know what, Howard? Even with your internet problems, what you've proven though is that right here at KPFT, we can be everything to all people because we are radios for the ones who want that signal, we're internets for the ones who want that signal, and we are also video for the ones who want that signal. So we're doing absolutamente todo. We are doing absolutely everything, which is what we're
I
the
hope
people
those
who,
folks remember that during pledge drive time, because that is
yes,
coming up later on this month. We will be asking you again to fund KPFT for another 3 months or so. It costs $52,000 a month to run this place. Then you may think,
yeah,
how in the world does that happen? Well, we use a lot of electricity for one. For
yes,
two,
yes.
we are tied to the Pacifica Foundation, inexorably tied to it, and we have something called central services. So we have to pay them approximately 22 or $25,000 a month so they can operate the other stations and pay people to do it. I
Okay.
am one of the very few paid around here, one full-time employee, and believe me, it is a job. It is a
Well,
24/7 job.
It
no
is.
kidding. You know, we found out we found out some more about worth. You know, I always talk about assert your worth. I mean, when the hurricane came and the lights went in and out, and Howard was going between his home and the studio and the antenna, and I mean, look, man, yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, Jack has a half page or three-quarter page of wisdom over here, and we need some Jack wisdom right now.
Talk to me,
My
Jack.
babbling can stop and Jack can start.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, I'm basically going to parrot your piece on Cassidy Hutchinson here
Oh, I love
because
her. Yeah.
it really inspired me this morning. I really enjoyed your piece on Hutchinson. She hit all the right points on Trump. She endorsed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. She discussed the moral imperative for Republicans to reject Trump. She emphasized the importance of character and integrity in leadership and urged Republicans to break from Trump because of his dangerous disregard for the rule of law. She called for unity to defeat Trump and restore integrity to American politics. Man, does that hit all the points?
Yeah, it does. You stop and you think, because I get into these discussions with former colleagues of mine, and they're such MAGAs. Oh, but the economy was so much better. He brought so much manufacturing back.
He did not.
Well, that's the fallacy that he has brainwashed people into thinking that he does, and then did. So it's like, no, look at him for what he really is, a con man. He conned his way into the American public to voting for him, and that's about it. You're falling for the con. You're falling for a false idol. So beware. And Project 2025 slash Agenda 47, same thing. So I don't know anything about Project 2025. Balderdash. You do
L-
too.
It,
All
it,
right, that's
it's
enough of that.
let me tell you, it is amazing because let me give you one thing that's interesting that you brought up, Project 2025. Let me tell you how programmed some of his followers are. We know that J.D. Vance wrote the prologue to the book about Project 2025 that they decided to put on hold till after the election. It was supposed to be released, I believe, in September or August. They put it on hold. J.D. Vance wrote the prologue for the book. Donald Trump went to the Heritage Foundation and said that these are the smart people that are putting the policies together. He did that. Donald Trump did that. And we can go item for item that prove that this guy is very involved. I mean, look, he doesn't read. So as far as reading what's in there, he probably has not even read a couple of pages of the thing. But all the people who are working for him, that is the blueprint that they follow. He's a lazy guy. He does nothing. Now, that said, addition what he decided when he figured out that Project 2025 was really a dangerous document for his election, he decided to just come and say, I don't have anything to do with it. I don't even know what it is. And I have people on my 3 o'clock chat that every time I bring up uh, Project 2025, they'll say Project 2025 debunked. He had nothing to do about with it. I mean, when you have that kind of control over some people's minds, that becomes dangerous. Uh, you just mentioned some of your MAGA friends. I don't. I have MAGA friends too. A lot of MAGA friends. I live in Kingwood. A lot of folks out here are MAGA, and you sit down and you wonder, okay, fine, it's fine, ideology or whatever it's said. But when you go out there and tell me that they tell you how great the economy was, it shows you another problem in our minds, right? If you hear something enough times, you have a tendency to believe it because it's been repeated over and over and over again. One of the things that people on the correct side of the ideological spectrum doesn't do is point out why the policies that they propose or usually support are the better ones. All those people in North Carolina suffering the hurricane right now. It's progressive policies that's getting money to them, not the austerity policies that cuts programs to people. All those our our brothers and sisters in Appalachia that are on where all the jobs, where the corporatocracy left Appalachia, a beautiful part of our country. You know, corporations, after they've mined and taken the tops off the hills of or the tops off the mountains, and they've used up the resources, or the resources are no longer needed in Appalachia, they left. They didn't say, let's do something for the community that supported us for decades upon decades upon decades. They left. And what's sustaining many of those people out there are the programs that the people who run MAGA, not the MAGA people, but the people who MAGA vote for, they are the ones that are saying, we don't want these programs. So all those programs that these people on the right, the MAGA poor, are dependent on. And by the way, there are a lot more MAGA poor than the rest of America. MAGA exists in Alabama. And I'm talking about in larger percentages. MAGA exists in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, North Dakota, South Dakota, all these other places. Well, Dakotas are different animals, got to get a lot of oil. But these are a lot of poor people that people like Donald Trump take advantage of. They're poor. And the one thing I blame Democrats for is not meeting people where they are. I mean, right here, we tell the truth about MAGA, we talk about it, but at the same time, we give some love. We don't try to say, oh, yeah, you're wrong. I'm sorry. We're not going to tell you you're right. You're absolutely wrong. But we're not going to shut the door ever on you. Because, I have a daughter that's been wrong, and I would never shut the door on my daughter. Well, she'll tell you that she's found me in a few wrongness herself. But hey, what can I say? That's true. But so the bottom line is this, folks. This is not a time to just go ahead and knock on our MAGA brothers and sisters. I mean, there's something in the mind, in the mindset, that makes you to predisposed to the things that Trump says, and that occurs on the left too. The only good thing about it on the left side, it is things that are people centric, not corporate centric. And I said left. I didn't say neoliberal Democrat. I said left. Big difference. So we have to continue this journey, and we have a big job to do between now and the outcome of the election, to ensure that something positive happens in the election, during the elections, after the election. Because eventually MAGA will come home. And I'm hoping that place where they land. It's not going to be that place where they feel I have nothing to lose, and therefore I go bat, you know what, crazy. Because when people find out that they've been wronged for a long time and they finally open up and see the light, what happens? There are two different reactions. And that reaction has to do with who's there to support you when you find out that you've been fooled, when you find out that you've been wronged, when you find out that you've been taken advantage of, when you found out that the values that you had were wrong. When I found out that certain values I had was wrong, the good thing about it is I had somewhere to land. You know, a sexist must have somewhere to land. A homophobe must have somewhere to land. A racist must have somewhere to land. You know, we have to give people places to land. Because you know what? If you don't have a place to land, a crash occurs. And guess what? That crash could occur in your neighborhood. And it doesn't matter that you're one of the good guys. If that crash occurs in that neighborhood, a dead person is a dead person is a dead person is a dead person. And of course, that was Jack who got me into my rant that was completely and entirely unprepared. But I want to start somewhere else. Analysis, people are constantly asking our sister, Kamala Harris, gives us a specific of your plans and what it will do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, we've had it for quite a while, but it's out there now. And economists have been able to compare plans. And it turns out, I'm doing a piece that I just saw, the snippets I'm going to use on MSNBCs that does a comparison about the deficits and how the money is going to be spent, etc. I'll do that later on today. But an analysis has come out, and Jake Johnson at Common Dreams wrote up a little piece on it that I want to go over. But since we have our first caller, I'll digress a minute on this piece, and I'll go to Patrick, and then I'll continue with this piece here. Brother Patrick, come on in.
Hey, good morning. Off topic, but I wanted to rewind to the vice presidential debate.
Yes, sir.
And everybody picked up on the January 6th thing, but the thing I really picked up on and what got me and what I wish they had fact checked Vance on was when they tried to ask him about global warming. Not only did he call it weird and he tried to downplay it, but he said that he and Trump were for clean air and clean water. Now, there's been, during the 4 years of Trump, there was a rollback on over 100 policies.
Regulations.
Clean Air Act, yeah. They brought coal back. I don't understand how somebody can say that and get away with it. They're rolling back worker protections. They're doing nothing for the environment, and they said they wanted to turn the lights off at the EPA. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you for that, Patrick. I think that is important, and that was a good catch as well. I did hear that, but what I did when I hear him said they believe in clean water and clean air, my response was to laugh. I probably should have made a bigger response other than just laughing, right? And I wish I had. I wish.
Things we have.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I wish Tim Walz had laughed when he said that. I wish Walz had laughed when he said Trump saved Obamacare. I wish he had laughed at a whole lot of those things, right? But what can I say? I think the reason why the big one was January 6th is that it is something that people can latch on to immediately. But you know how that goes. But thank you for that, Brother Patrick.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, let's go to Brother Harry. Come on in, Brother Harry.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Howard. Happy Friday, Jack. And Feliz Navidad. Oh, sorry. Happy Friday.
It's not Christmas, man.
Yeah, that's why I stopped myself. I was trying to understand. I got a new slogan: "Make America suckers again." Howard is right. People need to see this con man for what he is, and people tend to believe it. I know you're working on your sister, Iberto. I've stopped trying to talk to my friend in Florida. He just believes. When I've spoken with Project 2025 with him, he says Trump said he didn't know anything about it. He said it out of his own mouth. And every time when I would point out, look, the Heritage Foundation and all those people, those three justices that Trump put on the court, they came from the Heritage Foundations. And I've told him, look all these things up. He doesn't want to do it. He says, oh, it's all lies. The problem is with you, Harry, is you listen to those people on KPFT, you listen to Roberto Willis, and you listen to Howard Reynolds, you listen to Jack Van Diver and some of those other callers that you listen to on that show. And I said, I listen to them because they make a lot of sense. And I listen to people like Arnie Arnson and Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! And listen to these things because they make sense. And then I fact check some of these things, and a lot of these things turn out to be true. And it's just accurate and it's right. And I'm trying to help you. Like I told you, I don't talk this stuff to you just because, I'm doing it for my health. Look, I've known you since 1980, and I am tired of. I just don't like to see you be made a sucker of. And one of the things that I bring up with him is, I'm sure you heard of this, Roberto. This happened in the 1980s. There was a guy named Tom Vu and Dave Daldito, and they would do these bargain distressed property commercials. Well, my friend and I went to one of those seminars back in 1986, and he ended up blowing $900 and getting ripped off. That's the kind of thing. And then I remember seeing it on the news. There were a lot of people who were upset about it. My brother's friend, Alan, they went up on the tuition for that program a couple years later, $2,000. And when he was telling my parents about it, I walked in. I said, "Not that Tom Vu mess." And he said, "You know about Tom?" "Yeah, because my friend from Florida dragged me to that mess, and it blew up. And he blew $900 a couple of years earlier. Alan, and your friend blew $2,000. They got taken advantage of. Donald Trump is a cult. Those kinds of people.
And you know what? Let me tell you, Harry. Let me stop you. We're on for 3 minutes, but let me just say this:
Right.
there are people that are predisposed to fall for the con over and over and over again. I remember that these real estate guys, and they're all over the place. They now have transferred it onto YouTube. They tell people how they can make a lot of money on YouTube. Just subscribe to this program that we have. Well, these guys are making money not from the thing that they tell you will make you a millionaire. They're making money from skimming your money, just like Donald Trump has done. But people,
Yeah.
these guys, supply and demand. As long as we have people who are willing to be gullible, you have these kind of people that rip you off over and over again.
Yep.
And you're right, Donald Trump is a con man. And what these people know to do is they know what your trigger is. They know what mental disease you have. And we all have different kinds of, I call them mental diseases, right? Where there's something that is easy to trigger us. I mean, science in certain ways can trigger me. So if somebody come up with a good science con, it could probably trigger parts of me temporarily. But the good thing about those of us who are critical thinkers, which most of us are, we can be fooled temporarily, but we recover. The problem we're having with a whole lot of folks that follow Donald Trump is we haven't yet found the antidote that would have them see the person for who they are, and not only see the person for who they are, but how that person is dangerous, not for the rest of us, dangerous for them personally, and they don't see it. And my problem, as I mentioned in my initial monologue, is what happens when they explosively see it. People react in several ways when they really find out they've been had. Some of them are so embarrassed that they commit suicide. Some of them are so embarrassed that they want to kill everything in front of them. And guess what? These guys are armed. Some of them,
Yeah.
I mean, when they find out that they've been a sucker, and not being able to front the people who've been trying to tell them that for or for year after year. What is their response? And when you hear me in that monologue say we need to give people a place to land, it's because people are going to start finding some of this out. Let's get, God forbid, but let's say Donald Trump were to get elected. I don't think he stand a fat chance in hell to get elected, but let's say he was to get
I hope
elected
you're right.
in November. Let's say that he gets elected in November. We will start seeing what we've spoken about occur. And remember, he has nothing to lose then, because he cannot be up for reelection, because he's already served one term. No, he may want to stay in. He may force himself in some manner, dictatorial manner, and all those
Yeah.
people that were for him, they no longer have a place to land. What happens then? So it's something to think
Yeah.
about. Thank you, Jack. Harry, I got to go to the
Well,
next
can I
caller.
say one more thing?
Real quick, real
One more
quick.
thing. Yeah. What? I got another slogan. It's "Make America Suckers Again."
Yeah,
People
you
are
told me.
suckers being fooled by that, and the Mitt Romney thing. They need to look at that Mitt Romney thing that he did in
All right,
Mitt
Harry,
Romney did in 2016
got to go. Brother,
Trump.
thank
Take care.
you.
Have a good weekend,
You
guys.
too.
Bye.
Thank you, brother. All right, let's go to line one. Johnny, come on in.
I'm listening to you, and you are a genius. You had just inspired an idea in my head as to how we can reach some of these right-wing mukes. You're talking about the challenge. Part of the challenge, I think, and I agree, is that they are not used to using that part of the brain other than the lizard brain. They are capable of nuanced thinking. They're capable of it. How do we know? When you go to a sports bar on a Friday night and they got the beer swirling around and things, and they got the football game or the baseball game up on the big TV, you listen to two right-wing mukes drinking beer. They can get all nuanced in their thinking. They can analyze baseball statistics. They can project into the future. They can make historical references. They talk about plays and this and that, yada, yada, yada. So when their brain is in that mode, you sneak in one or two PSAs on the TV paid for by a left-wing billionaire. You start slow, and you build up gradually to the point where they get used to seeing those things. And before they know it, they're getting some kind of news in a comedical style via PSA. Trick is you got to pay the trick is you got to pay legacy media enough money so they'll do it. That's the problem.
I think, I believe it or not, I think that is how you do it, right? I think if somebody wants to convince me of something that you have to do it in a way when they're listening to you. And I think you nailed it, right? Because they're listening. They don't have their walls up, is what you're saying. The wall is not up. The wall is not up. Okay, so I think that's important what you just said. And yes, I think that would work. I think, in other words, if you have these messaging that is completely neutral to party or person or candidate or whatever, and they accept it logically, and then later on they hear something from their Führer that is makes no sense, then it starts to make them question. So yeah,
We could just limit our message to universal health care. Spend our money and our time available just on that message alone, because that's what they all relate to. They
hmm
bleed just like we do. They get into car accidents like we do. They have relatives that wind up in a hospital just like we do. Guess what?
well,
We're all the same. Holy
I, I
crap.
I tell you, let me give you. I want to give a quick story, and then I want to go to my story here. But I went to pick up my wife's. I went and pick up my wife's drugs for her. She has lupus and had to pick some stuff up. And one of her drugs cost, I think it was 1,000 something a month. All right, and their plan used to carry the drug. And actually, no, that's not what it was. It's another drug I'm talking about. They went ahead and changed her prescription, and this drug was gonna cost, I think it was $800 a month. The other one is a different story. $800 a month. And I looked at the woman, and I found a coupon on the internet that came directly from the drug company that makes that drug cost, I think it was like 35 or $40 per month. So I took it to the lady, and the lady said, "Yeah, along with your insurance is what makes it $40 a month." And then I picked up the thing, and I said, you could see she was a MAGA person, right? And I said, "You know why this drug is so expensive?" She says, yeah, I said, "It's the drug companies have and I gave her the whole thing that you guys hear me talk about. And at first, she turned red like a cherry, because she knew where I was going with it. And I said, if you had to take this drug, if you had to live for this drug, wouldn't you want the policies that allowed you to afford this drug?" And she looked up at me meekly, and she just said, I made it about her. She looked up at me meekly and then said, "Yes." And at that point in time, I had her mind thinking. I mean, she's going to go back home MAGA, but I broke that barrier because I made her see something. And a lot of work with somebody like that is something that's needed. All right, Betty's on the other line. Come on, Betty. I guess I'm going to have to wait another 2 minutes before I start my thing. Go ahead, Betty.
What I want to say is about the Trump voters is they need to stop and smell the roses. They might find out who they really are, and they might find out they might like themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
And on Kamala, her not having a child was meant to be. She can serve us and better because her mind is for her job that she needs to take her body, soul, and everything that we need her, that she has, and her mind is the best of all. And she has an empty mind for us and clean. I don't have a child either, and that's why I can think about things and remember things and do things, but it's not saying that child is still inside my body
You
and
know,
always there.
Betty, that you don't have a child, that Kamala doesn't have a child. There's nothing that I
Yeah.
mean, a woman isn't defined by whether she has a child or not. A man isn't defined as whether he has a kid or not. It's, I mean, it is again putting those patriarchal thoughts into the mindset to try to control one. Again, you can't do that. So you're absolutely right, Betty. And anything else I got
Well,
before I
the thing
start?
is, another thing about Trump, all he does is kick people that are down. And he's one of those things you keep trying to flush, and they keep coming back up. How about that?
There you go. Wakamo. Thank you very much, Betty. You have a wonderful rest of your
Bye
day,
bye.
sister. Take care. All right, folks. Now, you know, analysis, we can take what Trump has said about what he wants to do if he's reelected, and VP Kamala, says what her policies are intended to do. And here's the analysis that economists come out with. Economists estimate that under the GOP nominee's proposal, the share of national income going to the top 5% would increase by around 1.6%, while the share of the bottom 50% would fall by roughly 4.8%. I think you can see that. That's a 300% difference, right? Actually, I am wrong. It's a 400% difference. Let's go here. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's proposal to further reduce the U.S. corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% would make the bottom half of the nation's income distribution poorer while boosting the fortunes of those at the very top, according to analysis published Thursday by economists at American University. The analysis released just over a month before the high stakes November 5th election projects the hypothetical macroeconomics and distributional impacts of corporate tax rates put forth by Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. the Democratic nominee. Harris has called for increasing the corporate tax of 28%. If implemented, the economists found Trump's plan would modestly reduce the nation's gross domestic product. Again, it will fall. The GDP would fall and significantly increase inequality, given that wealthier households are primary owners of corporate stocks. That would benefit from the former president's tax cuts. The share of the national income going to the top 5% would increase by about 1.6%, while the share of the bottom 50% would fall by roughly 4.8%. In other words, you'd be poorer. Harris' plan, by contrast, would mildly raise U.S. GDP, increase federal revenue, and decrease inequality, reducing the share of income earned by the top 5% of distribution by 1%. In other words, we'll take back 1% from the wealthy. We need to take back a hell of a lot more than that because they've stole most of that money, but we'll take back 1% and increasing the share of income earned by the bottom 50% distribution by about 4.7%. So the average American in the aggregate would have their totality increased by 4.7%. And the distribution goes as follows. The top 5% would lose 1.47%. The top 10% would lose 1.04%. The bottom 90% would get 4.26%, and the bottom 50% would get 4.66%. That is a minor redistribution, and what we need in America right now is a major redistribution. And I can defend that with anyone who wants to talk about redistribution is not right. So anybody wants to discuss that, I am ready for that. The analysis came a day after the Congressional Budget Office released a report showing that the richest 1% saw their share of the nation's wealth grow by what? 27% between 89 and 22. Think about that, folks. The top 1%, their wealth grew by 27% in that amount of time, while families at the bottom half of the distribution held just 6% of the country's wealth in both 89 and 22. A wealth gap that further slashing corporate rates would exacerbate. Trump's call to reduce the corporate tax rate to 15% was the centerpiece of an address he delivered last month at the Economic Club of New York, as Bloomberg reported at the time. When Trump took office in 2017, the statutory corporate tax rate was 35%. Notice they said the statutory tax rate. That is because no company really pays that after they take their deductions. Later that year, Trump and congressional Republicans rammed through an unpopular tax cut package that slashed the corporate rate to 21%. So, folks, again and again and again, we can understand what is going on at the top. And I would hope that those people who least can afford it would realize what's being done to them. Let's go to Gil. Come on in, Gil, line number one.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
I have a strange query here. The state of Minnesota, I think Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and one other Midwestern state. The Green Party candidate is gaining momentum in terms of the polls because of a certain demographic in those states. A former attorney from Trump organization is helping her to get on the ballot. So it's predicted that he's going to that Trump will win the swing states by the voting split. What is your information and what is your optimism in terms of Kamala Harris picking up those swing states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and the other one?
Okay, you're telling me that they're attempting the gimmick of a third party, given that Trump's ceiling. Trump has a ceiling of about 47%. The expectation if they can get enough third party voters to take 2 or 3%, that could swing the election. What you see the campaign, the campaign, the Harris campaign is doing to get around that is actually to pull in Republican voters. So while they're going after that vote that simply won't vote for Kamala Harris is going for the votes that would normally not go for her. So right now it's a ground game. And the reality is, so far, the Democrats have have invested in a ground game that didn't start yesterday, that started for some time now, and their ground game is in full force. Donald Trump has tried to use third parties to pay for that ground game, do tricks like getting a third party to run. A third person to run because he cannot get the votes of the majority of the country. In other words, what the Trump campaign is trying to do is use the technique to get minority rule. In other words, no longer a democracy. If you are able to corrupt the system in such a manner that most people do not get what they want and the minority candidate wins, it's no longer a democracy. What is my optimism? My optimism is in the American people. I honestly think with what we're doing and the truth that we're telling, and bringing it home to them, meeting people where they are, just truthfulness and meeting people where they are. Ultimately, when that person goes into that voting booth and realize they have the freedom to make the choices that they want to make without any other person knowing what their vote actually was, I think most of them will make the right choice. And while everybody is scared about a close election, I am still not yet convinced it will be a close election. Close her up for me, Gil.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're more optimistic than I am because of the European influence and the Middle East influence and the demographics in those swing states.
Hmm.
Case in point being the Muslim population.
Well, even the
And
Muslim organizations are coming out to support Kamala Harris. They're trying to convince their people that, again, I always talk about we have to be adults and understand the situation. If Kamala Harris goes out and say what Biden is doing is wrong, APAC comes in and does some magical things. If Biden goes ahead and say I'm going to stop sending bombs to Israel, other things start to happen, and then you have to start weighing what causes me to kill the least amount of people. I mean, I hate to put it as dry as I just said, but one of the things about critically thinking is you put for the, like let me give an example for those people who absolutely don't like Donald Trump and they're upset with one issue on Kamala Harris, and because of that one issue they're not going to vote for her. What I try to work with people on is to say, okay, let's go ahead and take your vote away from Kamala, and let's say if you and all the other people that are voting third party are then responsible for or cause the numbers to be in such a manner that she doesn't win. How is that good for you, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister by now getting Donald Trump? How is that going to make your life better? You've stuck it to Kamala, you've stuck it to her, and you feel good that you've stuck it to her. But my question is, you've also stuck it to yourself. And it's about, we have 33 days to get people thinking correctly. All right, Gail, I got to go to the other caller. Anything real quick that you need to say?
that's it. That's it, sir. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Thank you, brother. All right, let's go to Brother Bard.
Good morning, Egberto. I got a new slogan for you. It's make affordable groceries again. What do you think?
I love it. I think you and I are in the same wavelength about that. And to make groceries affordable again, we have to stop the cronies that work for Donald Trump, right, from doing what they do, and that is raising the prices undearly. In other words, I think I have proven with the data submitted by Katie Porter and others that we never really had an inflation problem. What we had is a great problem that we can mathematically prove to you. When the oil companies raise oil prices, even though there was never an oil shortage, that permeated itself through the entire economy. Transporting your tomatoes costs more money. Transporting your broccoli costs more money. Buying the fertilizer, which is oil based as well, costs more money. All of those prices went directly into the pockets of the oil company executives, the people that Brother Trump supports all of the time. So I am with you. If we want to make groceries affordable again, we have to go with the candidate who will stand up to these guys and say, we won't support you ripping the American people off. So guess what, Bard? You've called today, and we're in 100% agreement.
Okay, well, let me throw this out at
Wait,
you.
wait,
I
wait,
have my
wait, wait, hold on. Wait, don't throw another thing out at me. We're in agreement, right?
Yes, we are.
Thank
100%.
you. Thank you. Great. I love you, man. I love you. I love you, brother. I love you. But look, I don't want us to disagree anymore. So I want to go to Patrick because I'm running out of time as well. Okay? But you made a very important point this morning.
Go ahead and censor me and take away my right to freedom of speech.
No,
Have a
okay.
good
Oh,
week.
wait. Have a great day, my brother. Let's go to Patrick.
I'm beginning to think that there's a competition between Bard and Brian on who could be the most useful. Expanding on Bart a little bit. He was gonna try and tie that to the last administration, and it didn't have anything to do with the last administration. But what I can tell you is subsequent administrations that softened or ignored attempts to curb global warming, they've affected food prices. When it's hotter than these plants have evolved to grow in, the yield drops. When a superstorm goes through and floods all the farmland and washes all the fertilizer away, it increases food prices. When people can't work because of a superstorm, and instead they're picking up their yard and they're cleaning up the mess, it drives up food prices. So you can ask yourself which party ignores climate change. And then I wanted to next touch on what you were talking about as far as the economy changing. There's something important for everybody to realize. If Trump makes a mistake and labor increases or labor decreases, hours decrease, and the economy slows down, it won't affect these billionaires. If you and I have to weather a economic crash, we can't get up and move. We can only change our job situation as far as we can drive. But
Amen.
These guys, anybody that has $10 million or more, all they do is they pick up all their investments and they move it
And
to
they
a different
go.
market.
Patrick, you got it. Patrick, got to go, but you're absolutely right, my friend. And thanks for adding to all the other things that increases prices. I wanted to use oil because we're an oil economy, and we can actually see that once you increase the price of oil, you increase the price of everything else. Well, thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Let's go to brother Brian. Come on in, Brian. Brian, you're on. Brian? Take yourself off mute, Brian. I don't want you to accuse me of dropping you, Brian. Okay, let's go. Bard again? All right, bring Bard back in now. Bard just had a 100% agreement with me, and he just couldn't take it, so he decided to call back. Bard, what's up?
Well, I'm tired of hearing Patrick. I've got my own set of data, Egberto, and it's the last 8 years. I saw what happened these last 4, and I saw what happened the 4 before that. So you can tell me not to believe my lies, but the people out here, we don't care about climate change or abortion. We want to be able to buy some milk, bread, and eggs and be able to afford it.
Okay, stop right. I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you talk. Hold on, stop. I promise I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk, but let me just say this. You just lied to yourself. Okay? Let me explain. You just said, we don't care about climate change or abortion. We just care about being able to afford our groceries, etc. Okay, I agree. You may think you don't care about climate change, but what Patrick just did for you is laid the table down. If you care about grocery prices, this is where critical thinking comes in, Bard. If you care about grocery prices, you must care about climate change. Critical thinking says, wait a minute, if the temperature goes up, if the fields are polluted, my chickens can't generate the amount of eggs they normally would, vis-a-vis higher price eggs. My milk cows won't generate the kind of milk that it needs to, a higher price for milk. So what I'm saying to a lot of my brothers like you is, whereas you just look at the surface, we can't afford to just look at the surface, Patrick. Bard, at all. We have to look at what's known as the causal things. And that's all we ask you to start trying to do as well. Causal. And then you talk about numbers between administrations. You're right. There are numbers between administrations, and they are absolute because they are math. And here are the numbers. The GDP under Donald Trump was even less than the GDP under Carter. Okay, there are a couple of things that Donald Trump beat Biden at, and that is because Biden started from a pandemic, and that is, yep, not until now are wages catching back up, and the inflation that we got, I've already explained it 1,000 times. Uh, Donald Trump didn't do anything for you, and when it comes to deficits as well, guess who had the highest deficit again? Your guy, Donald Trump. So, Bart, the numbers are out there for you to see, and they are absolute. And when you say you don't care about climate change, you are lying to yourself, because you said you care about grocery prices. And grocery prices are also tied to climate change. All right. Talk to me real quick so I can move on.
I'm talking about what is an important issue right now. It's the border. It's the economy. It's the
There you go.
crime.
You changed on me again. Now we were talking about groceries. Now you're talking about crime. The crime rate has been fallen, and they're numerical. You can actually see it in the numbers. The border has less people crossing now than when Donald Trump left the White House. Those are statements of fact, sir. They're scaring you to death. And because they're scaring you to death and you choose to believe them, again, you have a place to land though, Brad, right here. I got to go to Brian, because Brian gonna get shortchanged if I don't put him on now. And you've been on twice. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, about the third-party candidates that you said Trump wanted to get rid of, you want to check your facts and see that Cornel West was asked to drop out and Kamala Harris would pay off all his debts. Is this a true statement or not?
I have no idea.
Yes, it's true.
I don't know.
Yes, she did that. Yes, she did that. Okay.
If I were her, I would do that too. If I were her, I would do that too. And you know why I would do that? Because that Cornel West is actually corrupting the actual majority rule concept. But go ahead, continue.
Majority rule. How about basic democracy?
I mean, what's undemocratic about that? I mean, tell me what's undemocratic about that.
Telling someone don't run and I'll pay off all your bills.
Yeah, I love that. Let me explain this, sir. Let me explain this. Because our system is corrupt, our electoral system is corrupt from the time the country was formed. It allows people to throw third-party folks in there. Okay?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a real good point. That's a real good point.
It's not a good point. It's a mathematically correct point. Go ahead, continue, sir.
Oh, we've been corrupt since its inception?
Of course.
I really want to thank you for that statement.
Well, I mean, wasn't I 3/5?
Who you are?
Wasn't I 3/5 of a man when the country was created, sir? Was I 3/5 of a person?
It just showed me who you are, man.
Brian, let's ask you to think for a second. When this country was formed within the Constitution, I was not a full human being. Is that true or not?
Look, you're not going to put words in my mouth.
No,
okay?
I'm asking. Look, sir, it's a simple question. It's a simple question. I said this country was corrupt from its inception, and you get all upset instead of saying yes, but we've made ourselves better as we moved on. That's all you needed to say. We've made ourselves a better country as we grew up. That's all you needed to say.
It's called progress. Don't
Exactly.
tell me it was corrupt from its beginning.
So therefore, it was
Women didn't have the
corrupt.
right to vote, right?
Say that
Yeah,
again.
women didn't have the right to vote. Women didn't have the
Exactly.
right to vote, right?
Exactly.
Black people didn't have the right to vote.
Exactly.
Okay?
So you're agreeing with
That makes
me.
no sense, man.
You are agreeing
No,
with me.
I don't.
You just told me that
I
all
don't.
these you just told me all these bad things that this country represented. Women couldn't vote, black people couldn't vote, Indians' lands were stolen. All of these are true statements, which means anybody who does those things, that's not the right thing to do. You agree with that. And if I come out and I say it, you want to accuse me of some brother, come on, wake up. We make ourselves better.
Did the Spanish conquer Mexico? Okay, how far you want to go back with this again, man?
It's not about
Don't
going
come here
back.
with
I am just stating facts, my brother. Anyway, look,
did.
you're not critically thinking, sir. You have a great day, sir. All right? All right, Johnny, come on in and close her up for me real quick.
Friendly reminder to Brian. Brian, the U.S. military is based on socialism. Deal with that. And Breitbart, ignorance is not bliss, okay? If you have that attitude when you're driving a car and you don't want to know what's going on underneath the hood, guess what? You're going to get stuck on the freeway one night and you're not going to like it.
All right, Johnny. Thank you very much. You got your last piece, and I had three callers that called twice. Wow. All right, let's get to the studio.
Well, they just couldn't get enough of this show. That's why they called in. Interestingly enough, they talk about, how many people died of COVID under Biden. They say, oh, more did. Well, the interesting fact is COVID struck in 2020 and Trump was out in 2021.
Exactly.
So just a lot more time to battle COVID. And he did have that COVID economy. That's part of the reason why it's so messed up now.
Exactly.
It never really recovered. All right, Jack, what you got? Jack says he's got zip, so close it out.
All right, I'm going to close this baby up. Folks, don't forget, all the rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Look, guys, love you all. You are my PDR family, the PDR posse. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. As state